I want to share a little bit about a personal experience I have with a fairy tale I learned when I was 6 or 7 years old. I want to start with myself, how I came to that, why I got so attracted to that fairy tale. So my brother Dirk and I, we have been very close until our 60 years or 50 years. And we played together, of course, a lot in nature, as best as possible we could, living in a city. And then also, we had a favorite play. It was playing Indian Village. It's very interesting. And also, we like to play school. Even we haven't been experienced school yet. So, but then, when I turned 6 and my brother 5, we got poured into an orphanage, so we got separated there. It was a big orphanage of about 500 children or something like that. And my brother got put into a kindergarten, so that was a separate group in the big house, and I got put into a group of 20 other children who just entered first grade. So both of us had, of course, very different experiences, and right now, it came up recently, stands out mostly for me. What I remember is that he stopped speaking as soon as he entered this orphanage. So the educators gave me permission to visit him, not that very often, but maybe once a month or something. And I could not do more than just sitting next to him. He was kind of his face was frozen. He had no facial expression at all. He stared at the floor in front of him, and I could speak with him, I could hug him, nothing, no reactions. And I knew that only our mother with her love, could change something here, because he and her had a very close relationship until then. So I was different. I was, of course, very sad as well. But I tried to overcome that by keeping contact with my brothers. Another brother has been in that orphanage as well, in a different group. I tried to bond with other children, and I tried to get in contact with educators. So I had a very strong longing for love and for care and for trust, for joy, for play, and all those. And in him, it was just subdued, nothing there. And then I heard about the fairy tale in that same orphanage. And I would like to share it in case you never heard it or you forgot about it. And it's about the Snow Queen. Do you remember? Okay. So imagine I'm an old grandmother. It all starts with a troll who put some magic power into a mirror, so I summarized this whole thing. If you look into that mirror, instead seeing the good and beautiful, you see the bad and ugly. This troll tried to bring this mirror to God in the sky to make fun of him, but this mirror started to shake and fall from the troll's hand. It fell back to earth and shattered in billions of small pieces. Those pieces, if falling into a human being's eye or even heart, it changed that person's character dramatically. A loving person changed it to an angry person, a patient to an impatient one. Two of those pieces landed in a small boy, heart and eye. His name was Kai in German. Kai was very friendly and cheerful. He was befriended with the neighbor's girl, Gerda. Gerda and Kai loved to play with each other, and they shared the love for rose bushes that grow in the parents' garden. The pieces of mirror transformed Kai to an angry, critical boy. He became very unkind to Gerda. Kai did not show any interest in Gerda or anybody else. It was winter, so he stared instead at the flower crystals and the windows for days after days. At one day, he saw a lady dressed in fine clothes sitting in a sleigh carriage. It was the Snow Queen. She took the boy on her lap, kissed him twice on his cheeks. His fear vanished and his memories of Gerda and his family as well. When everybody realized that he vanished, Gerda got very said. She went off to search for her best friend all over the world and received a lot of support from nature, like rivers, trees, animals, birds, reindeers, different people from different countries, even princesses and princes. At one point, a reindeer who was the most time with this little Gerda asked a Finn woman, "How can we help Gerda? How is it possible that she already got so far?" The Finn woman said, "Don't you see how strong she is? She cannot receive any power from anybody greater than she now has, which consists in her own purity and innocence of heart. If she cannot herself obtain access to the Snow Queen and remove the glass fragments from little Kai, we can do nothing to help her." So Gerda went on her journey. She finally, she traveled to Lapland and Finland and to the Antarctica. There she found the palace of the Snow Queen. Through strong prayer, she overcame further hindrances like a wild snowstorm and entered the palace. There, in the middle of a snow lake called the Mirror of Reasoning, was Kai. He was sitting there. He played with pieces of ice. The Snow Queen asked him, before she left for a kind of holiday, to put the word eternity together with those pieces. But Kai could not even count 1 plus 1 anymore. He did not recognize Gerda as well. But Gerda was so happy seeing Kai, and tears of joy fall from her eyes down to Kai's body. Those tears washed away the pieces of mirror from his heart and eye. His heart melted, and he started to cry bitterly when recognizing Gerda. Both have been overjoyed to see another. On their way home, they visited all the friends who helped Gerda on her path. Then, entering home, they find that everything there is the same, but it is they who have changed. So this is a story of the power of love, of commitment, and compassion, in my understanding. And when I heard that fairy tale, I learned to some extent that there's a way not to give up, that I can have some kind of trust within myself, and also learning not to give up on others. So I remember that I continued visiting my brother, even though he barely looked at me. And at that time, I was also convinced that really only the mother's love could help, because I had no other knowledge about that. Then I know that I had a great value for this relationship, and that I kept contact to him was, I think, one piece of savior for myself. I saw so many other children in the same orphanage who actually gave up on themselves. They detached themselves from their own heart, and they neglected all relationships, and they developed all kinds of other behaviors that wasn't helpful to grow to a healthy adult. And I knew that within myself that keeping at least the social relationships to the other kids and to the other children and to the educators is very important for me not to, I don't know how even to express it, but not to develop, maybe, to say it like that. And I knew by my heart that in a way I couldn't express it as a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, that kindness is the important thing here. Now, having met Buddhism, I know that the troll and his magic mirror are actually the embodiment, and the queen are the embodiment of the 3 afflictions: ignorance, anger, and attachment. if we have those within our mind stream, all we see is filtered through that. So we can't see kindness in others, but the ugliness, and the bad. My brother and I fall into these extremes in different ways. So like educators who supported us became enemies, and children who lived with us became strangers. That I did not give up is mostly through the yearning for love, I think, just like Gerda in some ways. When I was a child, I felt alone in that kind of endeavor. But later on, learning about Buddhism, I learned that this love can be transformed into a big love and an altruistic love, a love that is not driven by attachment. But living with all of you and studying and practicing with all the friends who come here or who are living afar, I'm not alone in that approach anymore. And together we can learn step by step to transform this urge for love, to unconditional love for all sentient beings. So now I also understand that the mirror of reasoning where Kai was sitting on, right, the lake, and Kai was trying to put together the pieces of ice into a word called eternity. So I just changed that to the word of nirvana. Kai was not able to put this word together as his heart was frozen, so he had no feeling, no compassion, no loving kindness within himself, neither for himself neither for others. So what I interpret is that just intellectual knowledge alone doesn't lead us to the nirvana. And we need both method and wisdom. And so he was just sitting on the foundation of reasoning to get that. And both approaches are established through the foundation of reasoning. So I want to encourage everybody who kind of maybe has experiences in their childhood or even now, and they feel really depressed or sad, and to look if they can kind of contact within themselves, see some strength, and develop that instead of looking through the mirror of the magic mirror that sees everything as ugly and bad, to see things how they really exist, and to see the good things within oneself as well as within others.